Hi everyone, and welcome back to a modern Midwest homestead. I am glad that you are with me today. I hope that you guys can hear me okay. I am having a terrible time with my microphones right now, and I don't know what the problem is. I recorded this entire video a few days ago and the sound was awful, so I couldn't use any of it. And then I went to record today and now my microphones aren't working at all. So I am going to try to record all of this just using the microphone on my phone. And I apologize right up front for the sound because I know we live near a very busy road and the traffic gets so loud. So please bear with me. It is a beautiful day. The sun is shining, it's warm, it's not windy, which is very nice for a change. And this weather has definitely got me itching for spring. I was thinking back, whenever I planted my first garden, I don't even really remember it, but I guarantee that I went to Walmart or a farm supply store or something like that and bought a couple tomato plants and maybe a pepper plant and basically just kind of stuck them in the ground because I really didn't have any gardening experience. Well, in the last 5 years or so, I have become much more serious about gardening and much more serious about the harvest that we get. So I was thinking, what are some things that I really should have known or paid more attention to when I first started gardening? And that is what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to break this into 3 parts. The first part is your hardiness zone, your frost dates, and your growing season, because those are all related. The second part is your soil type, soil pH, and soil health. And the third part is going to be location in regards to the amount of sunlight that your garden receives. So stick with me because I have a lot of information to send your way. Maybe you have heard people talk about a hardiness zone or a growing zone, and maybe you haven't. So this is kind of like the most basic information that you need to know is what hardiness zone do you live in? If you take a look at this map of the United States, you can see all of these different color zones. The USDA has taken the entire US and they have broken it down into zones 1 through 13. And then each of those zones is split in half. So you could be in zone 1A or 1B. You could be in zone 13A or 13B. So what do all of these zones mean? The hardiness zone is going to tell you the average annual minimum winter temperature. So it's going to tell you on average how cold it gets in your area. The zones are all split into increments of 5 degrees. So zone 1 can get down to minus 55 to minus 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Zone 13 is the warmest winter temperatures, and it could be from 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're over here in zone 6A. We're actually very close to zone 6B also. So that is important information because it will help you identify which varieties you can grow or which plants will or will not survive overwintering outside where you live. But zone 6A, you're not going to be growing citrus trees. They can't overwinter. So by looking at this, you see zone 6A, it can get down to minus 5 or minus 10 degrees. That is our average annual minimum winter temperature. It is good to know how cold your winter gets, but these are just average temperatures. This past winter, we had a cold snap, probably the same time that everybody else had one, and it actually got down to minus 25, which is much colder than minus 10. But that was just for a short time. I'm going to turn this map around so we can really look at it. So we're over here in zone 6A, and as we move west, we're going to see these zones move around. And really they start to curl up. And if you look up here, northern Idaho, northern Washington, there are some places where zone 6A goes up into Canada, really. So if zone 6A goes up into northern Washington, Canada, I'm sitting here thinking there is no way that I have the same gardening season as somebody who lives up north like that. That would be almost impossible. So obviously our winter temperatures are going to be similar. So where is the difference? Well, the difference is in the next part of it, and this is extremely important to know, and that is your frost dates. We're going to be talking about 2 separate dates for every area. The last frost date is a date in the spring when there is a 30% chance of a light frost happening. Where we live in central Illinois, our last frost date is April 21st. And then on the other side, our first frost date in the fall is going to be a day that there is 30% chance of a light frost. And where we live, that is going to be October 15th. It's good to know when you might get a frost so you can be protecting your plants or waiting to set them out until the chance of frost has passed. But another really important step you want to do is take your 2 frost dates and figure out how many days are in between them. And that is going to be your growing season. That is going to be how many days you have that will actually sustain a plant, a healthy plant, and get a harvest. So if you look where we live here in Illinois, our growing season from April 21st to October 15th is 176 days. Okay, we're gonna go back to our hardiness zone map, and we're gonna look over here in Washington, and I just kind of randomly picked a town that was in zone 6A that would be similar to where we are, and it happened to be Colville, Washington. They're in zone 6A. But when we look at the frost dates for Colville, Washington, their frost dates are May 8th and September 28th. That is a big difference from April 21st to May 8th, and then from September 28th to October 15th. If you take the frost dates from May 8th to September 28th, their growing season is 142 days, which makes that 34 days shorter than my growing season. That's an entire month where we can have stuff out in the garden growing, whereas they would have to wait. 142 days might still sound like quite a bit of time, but let's start looking at this in a little bit of a different way. Say your last frost date is May 8th. There's still a chance of frost. So if you wait until all the danger of frost is past, you're gonna be well to the end of May, maybe even the beginning of June. So then you're looking at June, July, August. Now we're at September, where there is a chance of an early frost in September. So you've basically got 3 to 3.5 months here, which would, let's just say 90 days, June, July, August, there's your 90 days, and then maybe 15 days in September if you're lucky. If you look at the maturity on a brandywine tomato, it's gonna tell you 80 days. So from the beginning of June, 80 days out, you're into August before you start getting a single tomato, and then you're gonna start getting frost in September. That's a very short growing season, and I can only imagine how challenging that would be. And I'm assuming that it would be almost impossible to grow certain things without some type of season extender, like a cold frame or a hoop house or a greenhouse. We're very blessed where we live to have a great growing season, although we do have our own challenges, of course. I hope that all the information that I just shared with you wasn't too confusing. But as you can see, a hardiness zone just isn't enough information to plan out your entire garden. along with your hardiness zone, you also need to know those frost dates and how long your growing season is, so you can get a good picture of which plants, which varieties are going to thrive in your garden. Because for me, I love growing things, but if I don't get a great harvest, then that's a lot of work with a lot less return. So I'm all about maximizing my harvest that I can and having the healthiest plants that I can. Next up, we are going to talk about soil. So stay tuned for that video. Thanks.